Good afternoon and good evening. We do have people from across the world that are joining us today, so in different nations. And I want to say to you that it's a pleasure to have you on board in my lounge here, that I can speak to you about a most important subject, leadership. Now, most people think of leadership and speaking engagements and talks and presentations on leadership. What are the 5 keys they think of? The qualities that are a leader, like trustworthiness or courageous or visionary, which is all very true. Well, what I've done in my practice over the years, in 32 years of consulting companies and coaching and training, is I've looked at the doing, not necessarily the being. Not what a leader needs to be, but what a leader needs to do. And so I've relegated this entire subject today to business. What does it take to lead your business? And what are the key functions or key activities that you've got to be able to ensure you have competencies in? We're going to cover those today. Now, if any of you have questions, why, I would like to entertain questions at the end of this or after this is over through either a phone call or email. I like that because I get a chance to have a conversation and really answer those questions according to who's asking it. And this would give me a lot more appropriateness to give them the more correct answer. All right, if you're all right with that, why, we're going to get on to our first subject here of goals. Now, goal setting. Goals are key. When you're leading anything, you're leading a group or you're leading by example towards something. Now, a goal is a dream. When you run a business, have a business, you have a dream for that business. That business must end up accomplishing something. And a goal is an accomplished end. And so, you know, these words and phrases on mission statements and so forth must contain in them, you know, the actual dream itself and the actual activity in that mission statement. And you think about goals. Before you start your business, something is motivating you to do something, to achieve something. And you want to see that achievement and that accomplished end actualized, come to fruition. And the more detailed it is, the better. When someone comes to see me, I have a little exercise for them as a client. And this exercise, in fact, it's an exercise for you. You might want to write this down. Not to say that you don't have a goal in place for your business, but it's a very essential question to answer. And it goes like this. Describe your life and career as you're living it in an ideal fashion. Ideal is the key word. Now, when you describe where you're going with this business, what should this business be like when it's really ideal? And that will tell you and describe to you in detail the picture. In other words, answer that question in present time. It's a present time question. You know, what are you doing when you get up in the morning as you're living your life ideally and your career? What does your business look like? What are you doing every day? What are your activities? Where are you traveling? Where are you living? How many locations do you have? Describe it. Now, it's also a good thing to milestone it. We'll get into that later. But goal setting itself has a history. I want to tell you how important it is to really learn how to set these goals, because the key is America. As an example, Thomas Jefferson is America's goal maker. What he did in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights is define and design what America's dream or goal is. And he laid it out in very codified steps so that it became the policy or rules upon which this country is governed. Or I should say, in his words, self-governed. Now, it's a very, I'd say, electric world, democracy country we live in today, with lots of ideas and conflicts of ideas. And this has nothing to do with politics. This has to do with the fact that you've got to lay out your constitution for your company. What is your constitution? What are the policies that make up your company? Where are you going with this? What are the ideals of your company? Leadership is about keeping those ideals alive. Leadership, in terms of goals, is ensuring that management and your group are in agreement and buy into those goals that you are setting forth. You must write them out. Take your time with them. It's a very, very personal thing. You know, it's really your mission statement broken up into various ideals, philosophies. How are you going to go about governing this business and leading people? And what kind of culture do you want to create in your business? And that's really what we're talking about here. And those need to be defined as an embodiment and a reflection of who you are and what you believe in. And every day when you arrive at your business, it's like an unleashed explosion of joy and future getting closer to what your ideal is. That's how personal it is. Now let me share something with you. I want to share something with you with regard to my mission statement, and I'll tell you why I wrote it this way. This is mine, and this gives me an expression, and it also expresses to the world what I believe in, what I'm doing, and how I see the accomplishment in the end. To advise and develop ethical, competent, and productive leaders who become powerful communicators, improving the world, improving our world. Now, let me express that in terms of why I chose that. I chose that because, number one, those last three words are the most important to me. I do not want to take on a client who is not improving our world. I don't want to deal with associates, colleagues, suppliers, service providers that are not improving our world. Now that tells me who I'm going to associate with and who I service. Those who are constructive and are adding value to the world, not holding it back or just money motivated. Number two, it has in it what I'm actually doing to advise and develop, which means I am also working with leaders who are already leaders and advising them, but I'm also taking aspiring leaders and developing them. That's in my mission statement. And these are the three qualities that I should say four, because there's four qualities in there: ethical, competent, and productive, and powerful communicators. If they're going to improve our world, they must connect to our world. Now, I'm giving you a treatise here on leadership by talking about my mission statement. And what I'm doing is giving you an example of what I would like to see you do, is put a mission statement together. I'm going to give you a homework assignment, all of you listening. I'd like you to email me your new mission statement and let me help you with it. Okay? I'm not going to send you an invoice on this. It's ridiculous. I want to help you with this. It's a work in progress. It's an exercise. Ethical, competent, productive. Those three tell me that, number one, we want ethical or responsible or accountable leaders. We want them to have know-how. So that means that we're training them to become leaders. There are programs in executive coaching, team building, all the aspects of leadership, and we're ensuring that they become productive, that they're getting their work done. Now we add this most important thing. They become speakers. Leaders and speakers. Guess what? What can't they do? What can't a business owner do or a community leader do when they have that? Now, it's expressed in those 3 lines, as you see. That's how important it is to have your goals written, have it concisely put together and constructed in a mission statement, and have that mission statement reflect who you are, what you do, what you produce, and your contribution to the world. I hope that's clear to you all. Okay? Now, once we have that mission statement, what are we doing next? The key here is planning. Let me get into this a little bit. You've got your goal. You've got how you're going to get. You've got to know now how to get there. You know what planning is all about? Planning is the next step on either strategic or tactical. I'm not going to get into military terms with you all there today, but planning is about estimating the effort or predicting the steps needed to get there. That's what planning is all about. So on one hand, you have strategy, which is the overall view of all the different aspects of how you see this coming about. And the way I like people to do this is start writing an essay. Don't get too, what's the word I'm looking for, like bullet pointy about this or too cerebral about it. Just start writing an essay. How do I want to go about achieving this? And if you haven't done that, maybe you're in business for 10, 20 years. Maybe you've been in business for a long time. Well, guess what? It's time to re-look at your strategy. Times change. Your ideas change. Your philosophies might change a bit and go, well, you know, let me look at my strategy again, and maybe the route that I choose to get there might change a little bit. Because the process that you choose is more tactical. It's the projects. It's more of the specific targets that you put there to get that done. You know, and you can strategize, but then it has to get done. And so part of your overall leadership plan is, what is my strategy to achieve expansion in my company? What is my strategy to open up new markets for my business? What is my strategy to create more channels to promote my business on? What is my strategy to cut costs so I'm more viable, more solvent? What is my strategy to find the right people and train them more properly? That's a strategy. Then you have your team within your business to help you with a tactical approach with projects that have step-by-step sequences to help you get there. Now that is what planning is all about. You've heard this old phrase, and I tell you, I remember my father talking about this. My father was not only a musician, but he drove a truck for a long time, and he put the bread and butter on the table for a family of 7. And I tell you, he's one of the greatest people I've ever met, because what he had to overcome to make sure that happened was unbelievable. And it was tough in those days of the 60s and 70s when it was uncertain. But he always said, plan your work and then work your plan. And all he was saying was brilliant. He said, put the strategy together and then make that strategy work. It's strategic and it's tactical. How simple is that? Plan your work and then work your plan. And we've got to do that as business owners. And I've got to tell you, there's a book out. It's called The E-Myth, and I'm sorry I can't remember the author's name. But he mentions this, and it's not a new idea, but it's probably a newly branded idea. He talks about you're either working in your business or you're working on your business. Well, working on your business is strategic. You are charting as a leader of your business and navigating steps to help you go from your current scene to your ideal. You have an ideal scene, which is what your goals are. Remember? The goal maker, what you've designed as a dream, and then you have your current scene. So I want you to look at your business right now and describe what your current scene is, and then describe and look at, if you haven't done it already, do it, what your ideal scene is. Guess what planning and programming is all about? It's bridging the gap between the current scene and your ideal. That's how you lead your company into a greater condition. Very important. Well, it's one thing, you talk about how do you get this done? You know, what do we do to get this done? How do we get this done? You know, it's a key element. Strategic, tactical. I'm going over with you now just some of the theory of this so that you can separate them out. Now, once you have a program in place, let's say you're now going to put together a program to accelerate your business. Let's say you have a marketing program. Let's say you've got a client acquisition program. Let's say you've got a hiring program, a hiring training program where you want to make sure you have the right people. These are all programs that you have that are all part of your strategy to get this job done, right? Well, do you have sufficient organization to get people producing? Why am I saying, why is this next slide in that sequence? Because now that you've got a program in place, now you're going to get people to do the steps of that program. Now, as leaders of your business, if you have a small company, you're not going to have teams where you have to write programs for them. You might have a few people that you have a meeting, maybe in the morning. You've got 15 minutes where you have this production meeting in the morning. And you know what you've got on your piece of paper that your team does not, and you've got to make sure that they are on the same page? Your targets, your strategy, and the targets to get that strategy implemented. You're leading your team to reach targets of what? Targets of production. Every single employee, including yourself, must produce targets every week. Okay? That little graphic that you see on the right, when you have everybody moving integratively and coordinated, okay, that's teamwork. But everyone knows what they're going for. They know their job description so well, okay? And you ensure that they do. Everyone's on the same page. They are all, in an accumulated way, responsible for you achieving your production targets for that company. If you're the CEO of your company and running your company, and you're in charge of basically all that is being produced in your company, no matter what it might be, you've got to see to it that everyone else's targets align to yours. Is your business development in charge? Are their targets sufficient for you to reach yours? Is your delivery capability? Are the people involved with producing and delivering services or products, are they delivering up to the point where those targets are meeting yours overall, company targets? You see, your finance targets, you know, are you profitable? Are you spending less money than you're making? Are you making more money than you're spending and put money away for reserves? Are those targets being met? Every single area or every hat being worn in your company must have targets, because you're organizing for one reason. You're organizing people for one reason, and that is to get production targets met. Now, I hate to make this sound so unhumane. I hate to make this sound so discompassionate. I got to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. When you have a group of a group of staff and employees that are achieving their targets, they are the most high morale, excited, enthusiastic people that you've ever been around. Because production is what increases morale, nothing else. When you have people meeting their targets, and that's what you're organizing for, you see, that's where you've got a happy group. Well, let's look at this next step here. Execution, right? Sound execution. Right? Because that's what we're talking about is the role of a leader, the role of a senior executive, the role of any manager in that company is to get others to get the job done. Get others to get the job done. Now, execution. Executive. Isn't that interesting? The word executive comes from the word execution, to execute. You look at this and you think, well, let's look at a baseball game or a football game. And let's say football. Football just started yesterday. They had their kickoff game yesterday. And there is a game plan. There is a strategy, right? There's a strategy to win that game. There is tactical, which are the X's and O's, and playmaking to overwhelm the opposition and win that game. So every single player on each team, defense and offense, they've got to know what their jobs are. They have got to know if a play is called in the huddle, they've got to know what they're supposed to be doing so they're coordinated with the rest. And guess what? That's sound execution. Sound execution, you look at it and go, oh my goodness gracious, the amount of urgency in an emergency room of a hospital. The amount of urgency in a hospital itself to think that it's going to take everybody knowing their jobs and observing what they have in front of them and acting with decisiveness to get that done. Well, look at your business. Where are the areas of urgency? A lot of the areas of urgency are in the estimation of effort to deliver what's promised, and backlogs, to get those backlogs done, to be able to meet the demands of supply, to be able to supply the demand. Your delivery capabilities have to meet the demand capabilities. Isn't that interesting? So you have to be able to ensure that each member of your team is exceeding way past its point of complacency, you see, and that they can really dig down deep and bring out down, I mean, right from the bootstraps and pull themselves up and give even more than they got. Because you want that team to be challenged. Sound execution means target attainment. Okay, the only way you know whether you're executing well or you're competent in your execution as a leader is, are they attaining their targets? Make sense? Hey, make sure that the targets are not too stiff, where there's no game to play or it's just unreal to win, and make sure your targets aren't too soft and relaxed, where they have no game and they're not challenged. Let me go off a little tangent here. I want to talk to you about games. Because you look at a game, we talked about football, okay? And football is a very interesting sport, like any other sport, basketball, baseball, but it's a game. And if you look at business, it's a game. What do you have in a game? Let's look at the factors in the game now. I'm going off a tangent. I don't have a slide here to show you this, but we've got a target board in front of us, so let's just get the idea that we've got something to win. Every game that you play, you're playing to win. What are you winning? Well, you got to decide what that is. In your business, what are you winning? What is the win that you're taking your team to? What is the win for you when you achieve it? You've got to write that out. You know, these are the milestones, so to speak, okay? But a game's got boundaries. It's got all kinds of different elements in it. Let's think about this for a moment. You have barriers in a game. You have things that help you overcome those barriers. And you have reasons to play it. That's pretty much the three things you've got in a game. A reason to play, something to win, in other words. You've got something stopping you from getting there, and you've got things that help you. In a game of football, you've got sidelines, they're boundaries. You go out of bounds, the clock stops. Well, that could be a freedom right there. That could be something that helps you. Or if you catch it out of bounds, it's a barrier. Okay? You also have 3 downs or 4 downs to get a first down. Or you punt the ball. So you've got barriers there and you've got freedoms there. You have the clock, which is a barrier. Or you can stop the clock with a timeout, which is a freedom. Okay? You can pass the ball. You can run the ball. You see? But you cannot hit the guy before he catches the ball. It's pass interference. That's a barrier. And you're penalized 5, 10, 15 yards, depending on the penalty. So you get a sense of this, right? Now, how is your game being played? You know, do you have some? Are you giving your players the knowledge to play it? Do they have an understanding of the competition, the defense, offense, right? What's the competition, right? What are the challenges of the job that they're up against and getting them to overcome? What is it they win if they overcome it? Do you have a bonus system in place with your? This is leadership. This is not Pavlov's dog, ladies and gentlemen. You're not using positive and negative reinforcement. These are not animals. These are sentient, real-life, caring people that want to help you achieve your goals. That you've got to get them to buy into the game. You've got to get your team to buy into the idea that you're going somewhere. You know what they really care about? They care about the company's expansion. When you've laid it out, what's in store for that company and what happens when they do their jobs and what's in it for them, what's in it for the company, and what they're going to achieve overall, they get a sense of satisfaction, fulfillment, pride, all those things, you see, because they'll follow you. You're not managing at that point, because management, you have staff and employees that have obligations, they punch in, punch out. But there's where you're leading by example, and people are following you because they believe in you. You're giving them a game to play that's challenging, exciting, and when they win, it's a reward. All right, we're going to go on to the next slide here because here's something to keep you on track. Okay? So my statement to you now that we're reaching the halfway point of this presentation. You know now that in summary, you've got to put a goal there that's worthy. It's improving your world. It's something that's exciting and it's worth playing and all of that. Put your goal there. Put your mission statement there. Ensure that you've got a sufficiently sound strategy and tactical and so forth, that you're planning your work, that people can get involved as your team to help you pull it off. You've got a way to execute these programs and projects and so forth. You're helping people get their jobs done. You're not interfering with them getting their jobs done. You know, you're helping them by training them so they have the know-how to get the job done the way you want them to get it done. And they've bought into the entire ideology, philosophy of the company and where it's going. Now, here you are looking you're in your office, nobody around. You got your computer system on, and you've got your stats. You're looking at numbers. And boy, does this sound kind of materialistic, right? You're looking at statistics. Boring, right? Well, you know, stats and numbers can only tell you one thing. It tells you how well you're managing. And that is a blatant look at your conscience where you can't make excuses, and it says the numbers do not lie. Numbers do not lie. You've got to measure what you're producing. If you're organizing to produce, the next step is you've got to know how well are you getting your team to produce? How well are you helping them get their jobs done? If you've got to execute and get others to get the work done, you're a coach. You're a trainer. You lead by example. You've got to give your staff opportunities to succeed. Okay? All right. So what does stats have to do with this? Statistics are a measurement of what's being produced. And if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Can you imagine what it's like in the cockpit of an aircraft? You have no idea how high you're flying. You have no idea to what trajectory you are, how close you are to the runway. All your instrumental panels are off. Can you manage that aircraft? There are people that can do that without instrumentation. That's pretty tough. But you got to know where you're going. You got to know where you've been. You have to be able to change some things when you've got indicators. Statistics tell you what the present condition of your company is in. Department by department, section by section, division by division. Now, in smaller companies, you've got this. You've got, okay, where am I getting my customers from? And let me put a statistic on that. All right. How many mail pieces went out this week? How many reaches did come in this week? How many presentations were done to close new clients this week? How many interviews were done? How many people came in for those presentations? In other words, how many people kept their appointments? I'm giving you a little bit of a run, let's say, of your business development part of your business. You can staticize and say, okay, statistically, I've got this many promotion pieces going out, this many blog newsletters going out, this many impressions out on social media, this many direct mail going out, this many live presentations. So that may be 6 or 7 different ways that you want to get business for your company. All of those can be statistically managed, right? Then they come in and there's a conversion rate. You say, okay, I've got numbers of these. So let's narrow it down to number of people in that are prospects, number of qualified prospects that come in. That's a number. That tells you a quantity statistic. This is a very essential part of how you manage, because if you can't manage by numbers, you might as well, like there's a commercial out that says, buying a bad diamond on the internet's like picking a date blindfolded. Okay? How in the world are you going to know where you stand if you can't see by numbers? So you look at that and you say it's a quantity statistic that you have numbers coming in, but it's a percentage statistic which becomes a quality statistic. That percentage statistic tells you the quality of your closings to your interviews. Numbers of interviews in, percentages of interviews that closed that became customers or clients. One of them is a numbers or quantity statistic. The other is a quality or percentage statistic. And it tells you the story of where do you put your attention if you're not getting sales off of your front line. Well, if you got lots of numbers coming in, we don't have a problem. But it sounds like we're not converting them into clients, so we have a problem on our sales line. We don't have a problem with our promotion and marketing. You see what I'm saying? Now you can manage because you're narrowing down the target, and the statistic is telling you where do you put your attention. And it's telling you. Now you can create a statistic weekly and look at the graph. Like right now you see this graph on the screen. It's kind of like a nice overall, it looks like a 12-week up statistic trend. It looks like it pretty much is moving in a direction that's non-stop. It comes down a little bit, but it goes up, and overall you get a nice trend. And so you go, I'm not going to change much here. I'm going to strengthen what I'm doing. I'm going to add more to it. I'm going to find out if there's anything changed off that line. I'm not going to change much. I'm only going to strengthen. If you didn't have a graph to show you that, you wouldn't know. I like to put in my office, much like kind of, and I don't have this hanging in my office, but I do have it on my own system. I have kind of a war room. Leaders in military have war rooms, and it tells them, what the story is, what's going on at any given time. It tells them, it gives them a forecast of what to expect so they estimate properly. What are the numbers of people that bought anything from you this week? Are they up or down? And on a trend, are they up or down? How many promotion pieces went out this week? How many reaches came in the last 6 weeks? You've got to put a statistical representation of a number on those. What's your total revenue? Where did it come from? You can actually break those down and track where the revenue came from. You get a pretty good picture of your company by looking at it statistically, measuring it that way, and interpreting how you're progressing or not. This way, you're leading your company and ensuring its success by not letting it slip, because you know the story every week. Now, I don't want you to make the mistake of having to go in there all the time. You want your own staff, managers, employees to be able to keep their own stats. Let them make a game of it. Make sure they're keeping the right statistics, and when they have achieved their targets or not by the end of the week, I love this little thing. Let your staff produce something like a plan of how they're going to revert that downtrend statistic and make it uptrend. What are they going to do? Let them take responsibility. Let them solve the problem, or you can help them solve the problem. But give them the banner to solve that problem. Let them look at their statistics and go, my goodness, you know, I look at this and I compare the stat from there. What did I change? What did I do differently this week than when I was doing it when the stats were up? That's why we look at records and we look at statistics. It tells the story week to week. All right, so the key thing here is measurable results, right? And, you know, when I say you've got to get in there, not interfere with their production, but communicate and make sure that your team is coordinated, because it could be a statistic drop or some aspect or problem in your company is because they're not communicating with each other. You want your team coordinated well. Gather them together once in a while. Have a meeting, have a staff meeting, you know, a motivational meeting. Go over these statistics with them. Make sure your team is a coordinated team. Communicate at weekly meetings. Maybe you want to get together with what I call an executive council. You know, like the 2 or 3 main people, and have a meeting in your office and make sure they're coordinated so that they can coordinate their team. That is very, very important. A leader communicates, makes a coordinated team. And a team, I'm telling you, there's no greater way to build a team, you know, than, you know, you have to ensure that everyone knows what everyone else is doing. They know each other's, what they're going for, what each other's supposed to produce. You know, you certainly don't want one team member knocking the hat off of another. Certainly team members can help each other, but they also want to make sure there's achievement. So when you build a team and you can coordinate a team, my goodness, you've then got a team achieving your goals for that week, for that quarter, for that year, so that those milestones are achieved. You know, I like that kind of camaraderie in a group. It's a lot of camaraderie. You know, when you have get-togethers, you're not getting together so you can solve an employee's problem. Never, never, ever solve an employee's problem. It is not a leader's responsibility to solve an employee's problem. Let that employee come up with a solution, even if it's not right. You can help that person with the solution, but let them come up with it. Let them propose the solution. You'll never make a leader below you unless you do that. You know, you can have all kinds of ways to coordinate so that teams achieve. You know, there are training sessions in companies that you can lead as a leader. Try that one. Okay? That takes communication, right? Because communication is the key to making all that happen. How do you effectively communicate? And why do you effectively communicate? What's the purpose of your communication? Your communication is to make sure that they're getting their jobs done, number one, and they understand their jobs. That's more mechanical and more kind of the purest of it all, you know. They need to do their jobs and get their production up to a certain level. And you need to make sure they understand what their jobs are. They understand through your communication how to get that job done. But there's also communication that does not travel up and down that organizational chart. Most of your communication, and it should, travel left to right, horizontally, not vertically. When you've got a lot more communication traveling vertically, you've got lots of people taxing, burdening, overwhelming management and leaders. And that tells you they don't know what they're doing. They are not well trained. You've got the wrong people. You want communication going left to right across the organization. You really want your teams talking to other teams. You want your in-charges talking to in-charges of those teams, coordinating well so that they're all achieving targets. And by the end of that week or month or quarter, my goodness, you've got a whole brand new level of performance, and that's what you want. So we've gone over a few things here, and you know, coming down here, we talk about controlled expansion as a real leader's, I think, ideal. You know, a CEO of a company, an owner of a company, whether it be a startup or an accelerated growth company, whether it be one that is starting to take on new locations. When you look at controlled expansion, the word controlled is a very important description of expansion. When you're expanding, you are planning it out. And you tell people, well, you know, you might tell someone what your actual ideas are, or you can sit down with your staff or your executive council and give them a sense of the future and where that's going and what you're planning in steps to get there. Controlled expansion, you know, it has to do with, you know, making targets. Here's your 1-year target. Here's your 3-year target. Here's your 5-year target, okay? And so you've got milestones, which are estimated. And you want your group to move in the direction of getting those milestones achieved. Do you have such a thing for your group right now? Do you have such a milestone design of where you want to be 6 months from now, where you want to be, where you want this company a year from now? Where do you want this company to go 2 years from now? There's certain things you don't want to tell your employees too much of where your future is because it kind of gives them too much of a sense of being way out there. Their attention needs to be a little bit closer to present time and in their work. But if you give them a sense of what they can strive for and where your company is going, then it gives them a great sense of that they're in something special. You're providing them with a company that's something special. And that gives them a reason and a motivation to work even harder. So do you have such a plan in place? Do you have milestones in place? And I would urge you to do that. Because this way you're predicting and estimating the expansion of your company and where it should go. You're also, by the way, as the owner of your company, expressing your exit strategy, not necessarily to your team, right, but to those mentors that you are confiding in. Your exit strategy. Where are you going from here? Let me give you, I'll digress a little bit about, you know, my plans. As a company, my plan as a company is to ensure that the 3 areas that are most influential in the world are getting leadership training. Of course, one is business, and we can break that up into several types of niche businesses. The second is government military, and the third is entertainment media. Now, if you look at that, entertainment media, government military, and business, these are the 3 probably most influential centers of influence in the world. So my programs and workshops and coaching and training to corporations, to military and government, and to the media involve What do I deliver? I deliver leadership programs, I deliver public speaking and effective presentation, and I deliver media coaching. What does this do? This provides leaders to become more powerful in terms of their communication ability, to become more prominent, so they have a bigger and more impact influence on the world around them. Right, so now that I've told you a little bit about my strategy, I'm doing this by building my company where I've got people who are involved in entertainment, who have experience in that industry, who have experience in government, military, and business, to become coaches and speakers or business development specialists who know that industry well. You know, much like you have headhunters, you go to personal agencies, and they specialize in a particular industry because they've been in that industry. Well, what I'm doing with my plan is I want to have my company duplicated, replicated in many states throughout the United States, and also translated materials so that, you know, I have offices in different countries. Why? Because I'm affecting change and inspiring others so they can lead in their areas. So I will have someone come in and either be a franchise or a licensor. That determination hasn't been made yet. But I want to expand my company. I see myself as someone who can tour, give presentations, talk shows, as an author and speaker, really become an ambassador to those individuals who are running these prestige leadership advisory offices in many places throughout the world. We hold regional conventions, we hold national conventions, we hold international conventions. Now, I instruct and express that to my staff, and that's a very, very exciting future for them. There's nothing worse than living day to day. There's nothing worse than an employee coming in just making his paycheck. They are motivated by the future and what that future holds. You've got to have in place, what are your milestones for people to get there? Where's your company going? And you're leading people into the future where they see where they could expand, where they can flourish, where they can get a sense that their lives are going to be better and better as they stay in the game that they're playing. And every time, every quarter, every year, they're playing to win, and the playing field is getting bigger for them. You know, people grow, your business grows. You help individuals grow, their businesses grow. It's a very, very important point. Every business owner will have the most important aspect that they must invest in, and that is their individual people, human capital. Train them well, get them utilized, put those milestones in place for them, and they will pay you back big time. Okay? Now, we've got here, I'm not sure if I've got questions yet. Let's see here. All right, so I'm Michael Gerber. Thank you, Linda. All right, yes, Michael Gerber was the author of the E-Myth. And if there's any questions you'd like to ask right now, you can. But if you look at this right now, we're going to take the last 10 minutes or so and look at this as goal setting, strategic planning, sound execution, effective communication, controlled expansion. As I mentioned at the top part of this, this is all about doing. What does an executive or leader do? You know, sure, we want him ethical. Yes, we want a responsible leader. Of course, he's got to be worthy of trust and respect. But I'll tell you what, a leader becomes worthy of trust and respect when he gets his job done, and he gets others to get the job done. And he becomes a leader that others can feel, you know, a sense of inspiration and loyalty toward. That's key. You see? So I'm going to leave this open. If there's any questions right now, please ask. I have the question line open if you'd like to ask a question. Anyone? And what we have, okay, let me get on this subject then, okay? And you know, it's very interesting getting some ideas here coming across. Let me go on this subject a little bit. What should you be doing to ensure, as a leader, to ensure your company's prosperity? What should you personally be doing? Okay? And this has to do with balancing your life with your business. Remember, if you're not doing well, it's going to reflect in your business. All right? And I say, there's so many different aspects of life. You've got your family. You have your relationship with your kids, your spouse, your extended family members. You have your relationship with your church spiritually. You have a relationship with, what's your relationship with how's your money situation? You know, I kind of tell you, if you have people engaged in financial irregularities, the chances of that company being successful are very low. That's why I put the word ethical in there. The word ethical is key. So you look at your life, and you want to make sure you're in good shape, you're exercising, you're eating well. You know, there's all kinds of factors that involve. You know, you're not going through red lights, and, you know, you're being a good citizen. Use that word citizen, an American or international citizen of your country. You know, you're contributing to your community. You're in communication with people to help others. You know, you're contributing to your church. You know, you don't have back taxes. You know, your debts are controllable. You see, what does this? This gives you a sense that you earn the right to lead others. You're not sitting there thinking, boy, if they only knew. If they only knew what I'm going through. And this is where you find a lot of your executives that cocoon themselves in ivory towers. And they're not extending themselves out. They feel in bad conscience of going out and talking about things which they themselves have not upheld. That is not good. So I say balance your life. As the leader, you want to have all of those areas of your life in communication and in balance so that you can, in fact, have attention on being a leader, on achieving your goals, helping others, rewarding them for their production, all of that. And then give them a sense of well-being. Make those team members contribute to the community. Have your community become a hallmark of being a giver, of being a servant to the community. That's also a wonderful lesson for leaders to have and to be the embodiment of. That's just a point I think I can't overestimate enough. Goal setting, plan it. Make sure you have a strategy that you can execute these plans and help formulate and coordinate your teams and make sure they're organized. Communicate well. I love leaders who can speak. CEOs, executives who can get out to their Rotary clubs and speak. Communications, public speaking, and presenting. When you become an impact communicator out there, you drive more high legitimacy and public relations in a positive way to your company. I mean, look, I'll give you an example of this. You'll remember, some of you may not remember, you may be too young to remember, but back in the early 80s, the auto industry was in a real bind. Chrysler was just about ready to go bankrupt. And Lee Iacocca did a very smart thing. Well, first of all, he borrowed a good chunk of money from the government, and he said, I will return this money back in, I think it was supposed to be 18 months or 2 years. But you know what he did? He became the very first major American CEO to do his own commercial. He got out on the media and he promoted and sold Chrysler on TV at the major networks. That absolutely was never done before, and it skyrocketed exposure, legitimacy, response. He paid that loan back in a matter of months, and Chrysler became solvent and viable. Now there's a good example of somebody who got out in front of his company and became a speaker. So I say to every one of you, yes, you need to be working in your business and working on your business, but get out of your business once you've got qualified, productive people there and become the ambassador to your business. Become the PR spokesperson, if you will, because nobody's going to trust that business, leave trust to that business than that business owner. They will trust you, and they will trust that business. So get in front of your service organizations and communicate through video. Video is the media now. Do some commercials. Get out and speak to large associations of your industry. You can only hit your mark with more impact. Well, I hope I gave you some hope and some motivation to take some of these tools, use them. If you have any questions for me, why, what I'd like to do for all of you is be a help to you. So what I'd like to do is provide to you all a complimentary executive leadership business assessment. There, and I say this without any strings attached, honestly, my help is yours. If you have any questions or concerns, why, reach in. I have a wonderful organization. I have people that be willing to help. I myself will make myself available to you. If you would like to go to our website, you can download material free off our website at prestigeleader.com. But leadership is a very, very important and valuable hat to wear. I would love to help you wear that hat with greater success. So I'm available for you if you need help. A pleasure talking with you today, and I look forward to answering any questions that you might have up the road. Okay? I'm going to sign off now, and we'll be talking to you soon. All right, from Prestige Leadership Advisors, this is Coach Joe Yazbeck. To your success. Bye-bye.